Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Call of Duty Vanguard Multiplayer has been available at least on PlayStation for a bit now. Obviously, we have the whole pre-order early access beta going on. The next weekend, we're going to have the whole open beta for PSN, for Xbox, and then also for PC as well. And that's when everyone can really experience the game and how it's going to play. More so at launch when obviously everyone is able to get their hands on it. But based off what we played so far, based off of my experience playing the game, obviously on PlayStation this past weekend, then also my early experience playing the game a few days back or a couple weeks back at this point on PC against some other creators during an early capture session, I wanted to go through and talk about things that I really enjoy about the game, things that I think are big pros, then also some of the cons and things that I'm kind of worried about with the game when it comes to what I would want to see improved and changed for launch and whatnot. So going over a bit of a review basically of Vanguard Multiplayer in its current state. To be honest, there's quite a few pros, but there's also quite a few things that need quite a bit of attention. So as we go over everything, if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Seriously does help out the channel. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, this is the place to be for everything going on in COD, news, intel, updates. It is all right here. So feel free to hit that sub button. That way you can always stay up to date. So for what it's worth, right away, the game feels very different from platform to platform. When I initially played it back on PlayStation 5 for the initial alpha, I got to play that a bit early with some other creators, and it felt all right then, but I'm not really a big console player at this point. I'm very used to PC, so going back to console and having those limitations in place with 60 FPS and with 80 FOV didn't feel the greatest, but it was still feeling relatively good in terms of just the general gameplay, how the guns felt, how the maps flowed and whatnot. So my initial PlayStation experience was pretty solid. Then I got to play the game on PC early. You guys saw some gameplay of that a little while back, a few days ago, and that's also what I have going on in the gameplay for this video as well, the true PC experience that I've been able to play so far, and that I really seriously enjoyed. The maps played very well. Obviously, I'm playing against nothing but other content creators and pros and some press people, so the lobbies are as sweaty as can be. It's pretty much the top of the skill bracket in terms of who I'm playing against. And the matches were super fun still, even though they were sweaty as ever. I had a lot of fun and I had a really good time because the game felt smooth, the maps felt great, the guns felt awesome. Like, I was a big fan of my experience on PC. Now coming back to PlayStation 5, I've actually been playing on the PS4 version of the game, so I had a little bit more experience when it comes to how the game feels in various areas, and also kind of because I wanted to use my SCUF controller and not the regular PS5 controller, because let's be honest, there's a big difference there, and my gameplay has a big difference as well. I'm way better when I can have like the controller that I'm used to, obviously, so wanted to try that out and see how that felt, but I also wanted to see what the PlayStation 4 version of the game was as well, and how that sort of played, because I wanted to see if it was comparable to PS5 and then also to PC. Without a doubt, I can say easily the PC version is unmatched. Even though at launch we know we're going to have an FOV slider, you can obviously have the 120 Hz capabilities on PlayStation 5. Playing on PC just feels better. Everything about the game I enjoy more on PC. So for what it's worth, that is a bit of a concern to me, because while yes, PC should have certain advantages because obviously you're paying a lot more for a PC that can run a game like Vanguard or Warzone smoothly versus a console which should be around $500 or $600 and not the scalper prices for the next gen consoles, I guess the current gen consoles right now. The fact that there is such a gap between them is a bit concerning, just because the playing field is not all that even, especially if you want to look at PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. If those have FOV sliders on them, which presumably they will considering it's been confirmed, the performance on that versus a PC is going to be very different. And even though you have some things to try and level the playing field, ultimately it's not going to be one-to-one, so that's a bit of a concern. Obviously you want everyone to have a solid experience on the game regardless of what platform they're on, and the gaps between them, at least from what I've played so far, is definitely pretty big. But that out of the way, there's a few things I want to talk about for pros and cons within the game itself, not so much platform based. Let's start off with the pros here. For one, I've said this before when I first got to try out the game, and again when I got to play the beta of it, the gunplay feels incredible. I love how the weapons feel in this game. They feel realistic in my opinion. They feel smooth. Like, I just like everything about them. The recoil seems nice. It's not like point and shoot and easy like Cold War. You have to give some thought to it, and I like that. They feel good, and I'm a fan of that. The movement is also pretty solid, especially on PC, but I did notice a few issues when it comes to like slide canceling. Obviously, I try to, perfect the movement in a lot of ways. I'm no Joe Woe, but I try. And on Warzone, I consider myself pretty good in terms of movement. In this game though, something just feels off with slide canceling. It's like you can't consistently hit them. I don't know if it's the environment and you running over certain rocks or edges or something, or if it's something else, but it just feels like the consistency of being able to string movement together is not all there. And also the whole reset on auto tack sprint is a bit different as well with slide canceling. I don't know if that's intended or not, but I'm not really a huge fan of that. But overall, I would say the movement feels pretty good. Now, when it comes to the maps, really the only quarrel I have here is the 6v6 modes. Those just play a bit too slow, regardless of if it's patrol or TDM or kill confirmed or dom. 6v6 on pretty much all the maps just plays a tad bit slow, but you know, anything 10v10, 14 versus 14, 24 versus 24, that all felt incredible on every single map. That chaos is phenomenal, and the blitz mode in specific was utterly incredible. I loved that. 6v6 though to me was a tad bit too slow for a Call of Duty game. You can definitely tell the maps were built for a larger player count. So really, while the maps I really enjoyed and I thought they flowed very well and played very well on all the modes, for 6v6 I would like to see maybe some of the maps cut down a little bit or something change so that they flow a little bit faster and they're a little bit more chaotic and hectic. But outside of that, the maps I thought were really solid, and I also like the colors and the visuals on them. They looked pretty good as well. Then my final pro that I want to point out here is just the gunsmith in general. Unlike Cold War and unlike Modern Warfare, where pretty much every single setup is the same, you want to go for a suppressor, the longest barrel, an extended mag, a grip, and either an optic or a stock. I feel like because we have 10 attachments and you can use all of them, obviously you have a lot of variety there in and of itself, but it's not all just a copy and paste every time you switch to a new weapon. You know, your MP40 setup is probably going to be a bit different from your Thompson setup or from your Sten setup because each weapon feels different in a lot of ways with ammo modifications, with certain barrels and whatnot. So the gunsmith I also really enjoy, and I'm excited to get my hands on the full version of the game where you can level weapons up to, you know, rank 70 or whatever and get all the attachments unlocked and really have some cool combinations with that. Then moving on into the cons, there's also several things that I think really need to be worked on for the game to really make it the best it can be. Number one, the spawns. I've had, you know, this as a topic in multiple other sort of review videos for Vanguard so far in Champion Hill and in multiplayer. The spawns need a lot of work. Throughout my time playing, pretty much on every single map, there'd be games where spawns either felt way too sticky. I can remember on Gavudu in specific, I think that's the name of the map, on the beach. There's the one spawn in the turret area that is just so sticky. You're constantly spawning there in like patrol and TDM, and it's almost impossible to break in certain situations. Then other times, you're spawning behind players who are 2 feet in front of you, and then you kill them and another player spawns behind you 2 feet behind you, and then you're immediately dying. There's a lot of spawn kills and just awkward spawns that need a lot of tuning in my opinion. So hopefully that's something they can really focus on and work on for the full launch of the game, because they seemed pretty bad on every single map if I'm being brutally honest. But moving on from that, visibility, especially on the PlayStation 4 version of the game, even though I was playing on PS5, there were a lot of visibility issues, man. When I would ADS, things seemed very blurry, even though I didn't have motion blur or weapon motion blur or depth of field on. It seemed like it was really hard to see players, especially on some of the maps. Some were better than others, but visibility was a huge issue. There's a lot of like texture issues with artifacting and tessellation and all sorts of weird stuff going on the maps. The PlayStation 4 version of the game just did not seem like it was up to speed, I guess, with you know, the PS5 version and definitely PC. It felt very lacking, and there were a lot of issues with the maps around me for sure that I could notice very consistently and very often. So hopefully that's something that also could be worked on, but it also might just come down to being a hardware issue. And I also want to bring up that at least the PS4 version of the game, even though I was playing on PS5 just on the older version, didn't seem like it was the smoothest running either. I didn't play it on my actual PS4 because I honestly don't know where that is. I have to set it up if I wanted to try that, but it just didn't seem like it was running all that smooth. The loading seemed all right, but as far as like the menus went, there were a lot of glitches there with weapons floating. The character models didn't really look all that great. So like visibility and just how the game ran on some of the older console versions wasn't really all that great. And sort of going back to that initial point of that huge gap between console to console and console to PC is a little bit concerning to say the least. But overall, I would say I'm generally impressed with the game so far. It's definitely feeling a whole lot better than Cold War at this point last year, in my opinion. The Cold War beta versus this, night and day. I am enjoying this a whole lot more, and I think it's going to be a pretty solid game if they can go ahead and really focus on some of those bigger issues right now. So those are some of the more pressing ones I wanted to focus on in this video, sort of my truth and my honest opinion about Vanguard thus far, and hopefully we can see some positive change because of this. If you guys agreed with any of the points that I brought up in this video, or if you enjoyed it, be sure to let me know by dropping a like on it. It does help share it around. And of course, if you're new to the channel, if you want to stay up to date with everything going on in Warzone, in Vanguard, Modern Warfare, Cold War, whatever it may be in the world of Call of Duty, it is all right here. So feel free to hit that sub button, click that bell icon. That way you'll always know whenever I post a new video. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.